Hello viewers, this is Neela ma'am. Welcome to my channel. Welcome once again to the world of Shakespeare. Today's module is an extract from the play The Tempest by Shakespeare. Well, this extract deals with the past of Prospero, the one-time Duke of Milan, and his daughter Miranda. It also deals with the treachery of his wicked brother Antonio and his contract with the King of Naples in order to drive Prospero and his family out of his dukedom, that is Milan, and so that he himself would want to be the Duke of Milan. Today's class is a lengthy one. Today's module is specially for my students of Standard 7, as I'll be teaching you an extract from the play The Tempest by Shakespeare. Currently, the students of Standard 11 and 12 are having this book for English, this play, that is The Tempest. So before I begin, I would also let you know a little about the play. Well, this play, The Tempest, is about magic, betrayal, love and forgiveness. It is set in an island somewhere near Italy, and Prospero, the one-time Duke of Milan, and his beautiful daughter Miranda lived with a spirit in this island, with a spirit called Ariel and a wild, strange man called Caliban. Okay, but now before I begin the text, I would like all my students to keep their text right in front of them as I paraphrase and explain. I shall also be recording my class, so for all those who are not able to attend my class, I will be uploading it also. Okay. So, as I told you, the tempest. Now, the tempest means tempest is actually a violent, windy storm, you can say. And here, as the name suggests, and this extract appears just close to the beginning of the play. A terrible storm is raging and a ship is caught in the storm, as you can see in the picture in your book. Miranda pleads with Prospero to use his magical powers to calm the storm, because she fears the lives of the people who are on board the ship. Prospero refuses and begins to tell her the truth about their past. Prospero. So let me begin. You keep your text in front of you as I explain and paraphrase. Be attentive. Prospero, no harm. I have done nothing but in care of thee, my dear one, thee, my daughter. So he says, Prospero says to Miranda that there has been no harm, my dear one. Whatever I have done was done for your good. And then he says, who art ignorant of what thou art, not knowing of whence I am, nor that I am more better than Prospero, master of a full poor cell, and thy no greater father. So he tells Miranda, her daughter, that you do not know what you are. Who art ignorant of what thou art. You do not know what you are. You do not know which place I am from, of whence I am. Okay. And then he says, I am from, okay, you do not know that I am not just Prospero, whose greatness consists only in being the owner of a poor cell. You know only that I am your father, and thy no greater father. Okay. Miranda, more to know did never meddle with my thoughts. Now, meddle means to come to mind. So she tells Prospero, her father, "It never entered my mind to know more." Prospero, "It's time I should inform thee, father. Lend thy hand and pluck my magic garment from me." And Prospero tells his daughter Miranda that it's time to tell you more, to tell you more. He says, "It's time I should inform thee further. It's time to tell you more." And then he tells her to help her to take off his magic cloak. And then he tells, "Help me to take off my magic cloak. Lend thy hand and pluck my magic garment from me." So it's time for me to tell you more. Help me to take my magic cloak off. And then he lays down his mantle. Now mantle, as I told you, is a loose piece of clothing which is worn over the clothes. And so he asks help from his daughter to take off this magic cloak off, and he lays it down. "Lie there, my art. Wipe thou thine eyes till here I'll do. "Lie there, my art. Wipe thou thine eyes." He says, "Lie there." He tells his, just keeps his mantle, his magic cloak there. He says, lie there, my magic robe or garment," he says. And then he tells Miranda, his daughter, "Wipe thou thine eyes." Thine is here, your. He says, "Wipe off your tears. Have comfort and be comforted." Okay. As you know, Miranda are looking at the shipwreck and the people crying out for help in the ship as they are sinking. She is really moved, and she is perturbed, and she is full of sympathy and is crying. So he says, "Be comforted," he says. And the direful spectacle of the wreck, which touched the very virtue of compassion in thee, he tells her to wipe off her tears and be comforted. Then he tells, the dreadful sight of the shipwreck has aroused pity in you. And I have with such provision in mine art so safely ordered that there is no soul, not so much perdition as an hair bitted to any creature in the vessel, which thou heardest cry, which thou sawest sink. And then perdition here is punishment that lasts forever after death. So he tells, he first comforts her daughter, and he tells her that she should be wiping her tears and be comforted, and the dreadful sight of the shipwreck which has aroused pity in you. But he tells that, but my magic I have so managed that not a single person whose cry you heard from the sinking ship has suffered. So he says that I have with such provision in mine art so safely ordered that there is no soul, no, not so much perdition as an hair bitted to any creature in the vessel, which thou heardest cry, which thou sawest sink. And so he tells her that sit down, for thou must now know further. So he says, sit down, for you must know more. Miranda, you have often begun to tell me what I am, but stopped and left me to a bootless inquisition, concluding, stay, not yet. Miranda tells Prospero. Now another word, bootless inquisition, is here, useless series of questions. She tells Prospero that you have often started telling me who I am, but you have always stopped me from asking questions, a series of questions, saying, stay, not yet. Wait, the time has not yet come. Prospero, at this Prospero says, the hours now come. The very minute bids thee ope thine ear, obey and be attentive. And then he tells Miranda, the time has now come. It is necessary now that you should listen to me with attention. Obey and be attentive. Canst thou remember a time before we came into this cell? He asked Miranda, his daughter. Can you recall the time before we started living in this cell? I do not think thou canst, for then thou wast not out 3 years old. And he tells, I do not think you can, because then you were not 3 years old. He asks his daughter whether she remembers anything before the time they started living here in the cell. And at the same time he says, I don't think you remember, because you were not even 3 years old when we came to live in this cell. Miranda, certainly sir, I can. Miranda says, certainly sir, I can. Prospero, by what? By any other house or person? Prospero says, what is that made you remember that time? Is it your memory of any person or house, or any other house or person that you are able to recall? Of anything that the image tell me that hath kept with thy remembrance, that is, remembrance means memory. Okay. Miranda, it's far off, and rather like a dream than an assurance that my remembrance warrants acceptable reason for doing something. Now, warrants is acceptable reason for doing something. So, Miranda says it's far off. What I recollect is rather far off, more like a dream than any definite fact. So, as I told you, warrants than a fact, or you can say acceptable reason for remembering this. So she says it is rather, whatever I recollect is rather like a dream than a definite fact. Had I not 4 or 5 women once that tended me? She tells, once did I not have 4 or 5 maids to attend upon me? At this, let us see Prospero what he has to say. As you know, he's asking what she can recall. Okay, and she recalls and says that didn't I have had 4 or 5 maids to attend on me? Prospero said, thou hadst and more, Miranda. He tells, you had not only 4 or 5, but more of them. But how is it that this lives in thy mind? But how is it that you still remember this? What seest thou else in the dark backward and ebbs of time? What more can you remember from the dark depths of time? 12 years since, Miranda, 12 years since, thy father was the Duke of Milan and a prince of power. And so he asks his daughter, what more can you remember from the dark depths of time? Miranda, 12 years ago, your father was the powerful Duke of Milan, a prince of power, yes. Miranda, sir, are not you my father? Sir, are you not my father? Prospero, thy mother was a piece of virtue, and she said thou wast my daughter, and thy father was Duke of Milan. So, your mother was virtuous lady. She was a virtuous lady, and she told me that you were my daughter, and thy father, your father, was the Duke of Milan, and thou, his only heir and princess, no worse issued. You were his only heir. You were born in a princess and not of any lower birth. Miranda, oh the heavens! She exclaims, oh heaven, what foul play had we that we came from thence? Or blessed was we did. So she exclaims, oh heaven, was it a foul play that drove us from there? Or was it fortunate that we came here? Prospero, both my girl. He says, both my daughter. By foul play, as thou sayest, were we heaved thence. Now, He says, both my daughter, it was as a result of great injustice done to us that we were forced to come, but blessedly help hither. Help hither means, here it means help to reach this place. So he says, but it was a blessing that we were helped to reach here safely.